Alam mo, may existence ng Tau Gamma Phi, ano pang, yung ibang mga fraternity, alam mo na alive and kicking yan doon sa loob ng campus niyo.
Their alleged presence, Your Honor.
So alam pala ninyo na meron yan, bakit hindi ninyo ni-regulate? Ha? Andyan pala yan eh. So ibig sabihin, hugas kamay lang kayo.
You know na they exist. You know that from the start. From the get-go, you know na there is such thing as Tau Gamma dyan sa iyo sa eskwelahan mo. Alam mo yan, imposible. Huwag na tayo maglokohan pa. Kaya lang, you didn't do anything. You preferred not to do anything.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The big story tonight.
The Senate kicked off its probe on the hazing death of Adamson University student John Matthew Salilig.
Aside from the suspects, the lawmakers believe that the school administration should also be held accountable for lapses in their anti-hazing efforts. Mayan Los Baños with the big story.
Kumukulo yung dugo ko sa'yo. Naawa ko sa magulang mo. Hindi ako naawa sa'yo. Wala, kahit na tuldok na awa, wala.
Senators lashed out at members of Tau Gamma Phi Fraternity Adamson chapter who are allegedly involved in the hazing that killed Adamson student Matthew Salilig. In today's hearing of the Senate Committee on Justice, Master Initiator Daniel Perry alias Sting was reprimanded by senators.
Hindi ba kayo nakonsensya nung naghihingalo na yung bata nung kasama ninyo? Hindi pa kayo tumigil sa kapapalo? Sumagot.
Diretso ka sa Muntinlupa.
Yes po, sir.
Alam ng mga magulang mo yan. So sinayang mo na yung kinabukasan mo. Ganon din yung mga ibang nandito. Nandito yung Commission on Higher Education. Hindi na kayo makagraduate.
Senators also repeatedly questioned why pain needed to be inflicted on students who just want to be a part of a brotherhood.
Anong meron? Anong naramdaman? Masarap ba ang pakiramdam na nanakit ka ng tao?
Hindi po, sir.
Oh, kung hindi pala masakit manakit ng tao, magpalo ng paddle, baseball bat, bakit nyo ginagawa?
Sa tradition nga po.
Kayo ba, may mga konsensya ba kayo?
Meron po naman.
The administration of Adamson University was not exempted from the senator's ire. Senator Robin Hood Padilla points out that the suspects are still their students and that they should receive some form of assistance from them. But the university said defending the respondents in this case would take an expert defense lawyer.
Magulang din ako, pinagkatiwala ako sa inyo anak ko pagdating sa ganito, hulugan. Bahala na sila. Wow, kawawa itong mga batang to. Maniwala kayo sa akin, kawawa to pagdating sa bilibid.
The schools have been trying to balance this delicate situation. It is very painful for the administration.
The Adamson administration also explained that they do not recognize undergraduate fraternities including the Tau Gamma. Only fraternities under the College of Law are registered, but the senators insist that though Tau Gamma was not registered, Adamson officials know who among their students are joining or are leading fraternities. Senators also asked about Adamson's anti-hazing orientation, which is scheduled on March 18. The lawmakers think this is too late considering that the semester opened in January.
Hindi kaya ito yung pagkukulang naman ng Adamson ngayon. I have nothing against Adamson ulit, ha?
We recognize, Your Honor, that shortcoming. We scheduled it prior to the incident.
Kung ginawa niya yung maagang orientation, baka hindi nangyari ito. Napigilan natin itong kamatayan ni Matmat.
It was also revealed during the hearing that the Tau Gamma officials did not apply for a permit from their school before they conducted the initiation rites, which is a requirement under the anti-hazing law of 2018. Senators say they want to push for an amendment wherein all officers of a fraternity that will conduct hazing will be charged, along with the owner of venue where the hazing will be conducted. Reporting for News 5, Mayan Los Baños, we are One News.
In other news, 4 suspects in the killing of Negros Oriental Governor Roel Degamo have been transferred from the province to the NBI and Camp Crame earlier today. 2 of them are under the protective custody of the NBI, while the other 2 were brought to Camp Crame. All 4 suspects, who were former members of the Philippine Army, have vowed to cooperate in the investigation so they can be placed under the Witness Protection Program. The PNP says the suspects have provided them information to capture the other gunmen involved. Senators, meanwhile, visited Degamo's wake, where they handed out the resolution to the late governor's wife, recognizing Degamo and condemning the spate of killings of local officials. The Senate will conduct a separate investigation into the official's death.
Huwag mahuli, ma-neutralize, kunin yung mga baril nila, and we'll send a strong statement that this administration will not tolerate gun-for-hire syndicates, illegal firearms, or private armies.
Meanwhile, the Justice Department has filed murder charges against Negros Oriental Congressman Arnolfo Teves. That's over his supposed involvement in a series of deaths of his political rivals, including 3 separate incidents in 2019. Families of the victims filed the case together with the CIDG Regional Field Unit of Metro Manila. The complainants say they have long been building up the case against Teves, and the filing merely coincided with the death of Degamo, which Teves has denied having any involvement in. Teves has yet to comment on the charges.
In the wake of back-to-back political killings, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has ordered a crackdown on private armies. This is not the first time such a call has been made. Past administrations, including that of Marcos Sr., had also attempted to dismantle private armed groups, but it seems no one has been successful. In 2009, former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo established an independent commission against private armies, or the ICAPA. The commission recommended for a full inventory of guns and ammo that the AFP and the PNP have issued to its auxiliary forces and civilian volunteers. But many doubt if these recommendations were ever enacted, since even former President Arroyo herself had been accused of arming her allies, the Ampatuans. Legislation seeking to define and prohibit private armies also have not gone far. House Bill 2756, filed by Cagayan de Oro Congressman Rufus Rodriguez, remains pending at the committee level since 2019. In the Senate, a similar bill filed by former Senator Antonio Trillanes also failed to reach the plenary. Meanwhile, authorities have presented different data on private armies throughout the years. In 2018, the PNP said it monitored more than 70 private armed groups with around 2,000 members. In 2021, the DILG said more than 100 groups had been monitored, half of which are still highly active. But just last year, those numbers saw a drastic drop, with the PNP saying that only 2 private armies remain and operating in Soc-Sargen. Now, to talk to us about private armies in the country, we have on the line PNP spokesperson Colonel Jean Fajardo. Good evening, Colonel.
Good evening, sir.
Ma'am, start po tayo sa baseline data. As we said, paiba-iba po yung mga numero over the years. 70, umabot ng 100. What's the baseline data that we're using right now? Ilan po ba? Pag sinabi ni President Marcos, dismantle all private armies, what does all mean? It seems parang naputulan yata tayo. We'll try to pick up with Colonel Jean Fajardo later. In the meantime, I mean, this is something that, you know, we've been monitoring over the past weeks and days. Yesterday, so the chief, we asked that question also. There was really no clear answer on ilan ang private armies.
Medyo nakakagulat yung drop na yun, from 77 to 150 to 2. How can that happen overnight?
Well, they were saying that's the progress, but even last week, remember, sa BARM, di ba? Even BARM leaders were saying kailangan mag-dismantle, and they were just talking about the Bangsamoro region, and doon sinasabi ng police nangangalahati na. But BARM officials were saying hindi pa po nag-uumpisa.
I wonder though what the private army, what would constitute as a private army? I mean, ano yung difference ng security, personal security, and having a private army? And of course, if we have high-level officials involved in that, they also have their security, then where do we draw the line?
Exactly, and that's a good question. We don't even know what happened to the past initiatives kasi marami nang ang calls to break up private armies. But yesterday, we asked that also. Ang isang sagot na nakuha namin, ang pagkakaiba is, from what I understood, yung private security is basically for your protection. It becomes a private army when you basically use it to go on the offensive in certain cases. So when you use it to attack, when you use it to intimidate, and so on, iba na raw yun.
Pero medyo mahirap i-qualify yun.
Mahirap, lalong-lalo na pagka mga election season, umiinit parati yan.
We definitely have a lot of questions for the Colonel of the PNP. We hope to have her back on the line. But meanwhile, After the break, 8 more towns have been placed under a state of calamity due to the oil spill from sunken vessel Princess Empress. We'll get the details on that when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News. You're watching the big story here on One News.
The cleanup continues for the motor tanker that sank in waters off Oriental Mindoro.
Meanwhile, 8 more towns in the province of Oriental Mindoro were placed under a state of calamity. Let's get more updates on this. Mon Guaves joins us from the town of Pola for the latest on the oil spill. Good evening, Mon. Do we have information on other towns aside from Pola where you're at right now? Is there any other area that is under a state of calamity?
Yes, Gretchen, at the moment, there are 78 coastal barangays from 9 municipalities that are already under state of calamity. This includes the town of Pola, where I'm at, as well as the towns of Nawan, Pinamalayan, Gloria, Bansud, Bongabong, Rojas, Mansalay, and Bulalakaw. And earlier, it was even confirmed that the oil slick has also reached some shores in Antique and in Palawan. Gretchen.
When it comes to observing like what they've done to contain this oil spill, how fast are we going exactly?
Well, aside from the cleanup that is being done in the shores with the oil that actually came from the sunken empty Princess Empress, they are actually doing their best in making it fast in cleaning up the oil that actually came from the sunken empty Princess Empress, and they are actually counting here around. They said the contractors of the owners of the ship said it might actually reach up to a year, or it will kumbaga mas mahina-hina raw yung isang taon dito, sabi nila, Gretchen. But actually, aside from the cleanup being done by the Philippine Coast Guard and residents, the company that owns Empty Princess Empress has already hired 2 contractors to basically clear up the mess. They also did the cleanup of oil spill in Guimaras way back in 2006. So they said that while the cleanup is possible, it might take them a year given the fact that they are dealing with 800,000 liters of oil stuck up in a tanker that's lying in a very fragile state under the sea. They're now appealing to expedite the issuance of permits to procure the ROV, or the remotely operated vehicle needed to safely siphon and dispose the oil from under the sea.
When you mentioned, to that point, you mentioned the tanker itself, the importance. Kahapon yesterday, we were talking to UP Marine Science Institute, and they were saying it was actually very important to find the exact location of that tanker right now. You mentioned that it's in a fragile and very sensitive area, but do they actually already know where it is? Na-locate na ba? Na-pinpoint na kung nasan talaga yan?
Yes, Robbie, the oil tanker has been found 7.5 nautical miles from Balisangan Point. That's just right in front of the town of Pola. Officials agree this could possibly the reason why it's one of the most affected, the town of Pola, as evidenced by the oil that has reached its shores. Finding the exact location, Robbie, though, was like a eureka moment for them, for the authorities, as they can now better pinpoint where to concentrate their efforts on cleanup and response with this incident.
Amon, I'm wondering what you've seen at the community level, like we've seen. No? Parang, I mean, officials are trying to do their best. Coast Guard, they've also hired 2 companies, as you said. But at the community level, lalong-lalo na yung mga apektadong barangay, maybe you could describe to us the response of affected residents, not just in terms of trying to protect themselves, but also trying to assist in the cleanup.
Yes, Robbie, actually they're also helping out in the cleanup. That's why they want to, kumbaga, parang matapos kaagad yung sitwasyon, kasi nga they are very much affected in terms of their livelihood. Most of the people here are fishermen, and with the oil spill that happened, pinagbawalan sila ng mangisda, bawal lumangoy, bawal mangisda, bawal kumain ng mga lamang dagat mula sa dagat na ito, dahil nga nakitaan din ito na bagsak siya sa quality level ng water, at talaga nakitaan siya na bumagsak yung standards dun sa, or lumagpas sa standards ng oil and grease. Kaya naman, it's not really safe to fish, to swim, and even to eat seafoods from the seas, at the same time. Or that's why people or the residents are also helping out in the cleanup. But with that kind of effort that they are doing, the Philippine Coast Guard has been repeatedly reminding the residents that they could help with the cleanup for a maximum of 2 hours only per day, because the Department of Health also reminded them to be on the lookout for difficulty of breathing, headaches, or stomach aches, which could ultimately be the result of exposure from the organic yet highly toxic chemical compounds in the oil. And right now, there are almost 20 residents here who actually experience those kinds of symptoms. So again, residents are only allowed up to 2 hours a day for cleanup, and they need to be wearing the proper protective gear, which includes respiratory devices and thick PPEs and gloves.
Okay, Mon, ingat din kayo dyan. Mon Gualvez po reporting to us live from Pola, Oriental Mindoro. The second day of the week-long transport strike could possibly be its last. That after transport groups saw fewer jeepney drivers and operators joining the strikes in the metro. Transport group Piston staged another protest at Monumento earlier this morning. They said they will not stop their strike until Malacanang scraps the PUV modernization program. But the group also admitted that some of their colleagues cannot continue with the transport strike until the end of the week. Many of them reportedly said that they can no longer afford to have no income in the coming days. Meanwhile, the free rides that were distributed by government agencies and LGUs were also no longer available. But according to Manibela President Mar Valbuena, he is currently in talks with Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin. The palace has reportedly requested that the transport strike be halted. Valbuena says that he will present certain conditions.
Kasi ngayon is mapahinto yung tigil pasada. Siyempre, maglalatag ako doon ng kondisyones na kung ano yung parang bargaining agreement natin. Siyempre, yung hindi ma-phase out. Yung mga hindi ma-phase out yung mga unit, lalo na yung mga matitinupang.
Inflation slowed a bit in February but remains to be elevated. Data from the PSA shows that the country's inflation eased to 8.6% last month, down from 8.7% in January. Now, this is close to the lower end of the central bank's 8.5% to 9.3% inflation target for February. The PSA says transport was the sole driver of the downtrend, while prices of some commodity groups remain high. In response, the government says it will provide a 1,000 peso financial aid to poor households affected by the high inflation. 500 pesos will be given to them this March and the other 500 in April. The Finance Department says this is part of their targeted cash transfer program, which has 9.3 billion pesos in funds.
few weeks, mabibigay na natin to sa mga naapekto ng inflation. We already have identified the funding source and who are the recipients. Ito yung old recipients. We will not come up with a new list.
We will take another break, but when we return, UP's Juliana Gomez looks to follow the sporting path of her father, actor, politician, and SEA Games champion Richard Gomez, as she captured the women's epee gold in the UAAP fencing competition. We'll look into that and more when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
You're still watching the big story here on One News.
A magnitude 5.9 earthquake struck Davao de Oro earlier this afternoon. According to PHIVOLCS, the quake struck at about 2:02 p.m. a few kilometers from Maragusan Municipality, the mountainous province of Davao de Oro on Mindanao. Intensity 5 was felt in the towns of Baco, Maragusan, Labuntaran, New Bataan, and Pantukan. Intensity 4, meanwhile, was recorded in the town of Moncayo, the town of Tagum in Davao del Norte, and Bislig in Surigao del Sur. As you can see in this footage, students and teachers quickly evacuated from Lorenzo S. Sarmiento Senior High School in the town of Mawab. The province has not yet reported any damages caused by the earthquake. PHIVOLCS, meanwhile, warns of possible aftershocks. The Bureau of Corrections is putting on hold its plan to relocate its headquarters to the Masungi Geo Reserve in Rizal. This was confirmed by Bucor Chief Gregorio Katapang Jr. in a Senate hearing. Katapang says that the agency will review for the meantime the environmental impact of their planned relocation. But for Senator Nancy Binay, Bucor should not even lay its hands on Masungi.
Not pursue. We'll just put also the forest rangers that can help conserve and strengthen the ecosystem in the area.
Hindi na kailangan ng pag-aaral, parang malinaw naman na hindi talaga pwedeng magamit ng Bucor itong property na to. Baka we can look for another property.
Juliana Gomez, daughter of actor-politician Richard Gomez, is making her own name in fencing after bagging gold in the UAAP. The details in my report. A goal that's 2 years in the making. That's how Juliana Gomez described her UAAP journey as she delivered the win for UP in the recent UAAP fencing tournament. Gomez defeated Zaira Vergara of La Salle 15-10 in dramatic fashion to capture the lone gold for UP.
I still didn't feel like I was gonna win. I I mean, in the sense that I didn't think that it was over. It was just like a giant sigh of relief for me.
Juliana Gomez plays volleyball and was part of the UP team, although she did not make the final lineup. And because of the pandemic, she opted to switch to fencing, a sport that her dad Richard is known for. The actor, who is a 2005 SEA Games gold medalist for fencing, personally trained her.
So when I found out that she won, I was crying. I was in tears. I go, Juliana, I'm so happy, Juliana. I'm so happy. I was crying. I was crying. I'm so happy. Because she really worked hard for it. And I'm so proud. I can see her dedication. Nakita talaga na she's very competitive. Saka nakita ko rin yung frustrations niya pag hindi niya magawa yung gusto niyang gawin. Kaya ganyan talaga. You don't win all the games. You lose today, and then you train harder tomorrow, and then you prepare for the next competition.
Juliana's hard work eventually paid off after she took home gold medals in competitions in Thailand and Indonesia, and now in the UAAP. But the grind never stops for Juliana. After the UAAP, the young Gomez is now training harder to be part of the national team.
The big dream is really big. It's to qualify for the Olympics, to represent the country. But right now, my current goals are to make it to the national team for 2024. And then I hope to represent my country in the SEA Games after Cambodia, and then hopefully make it to the Asian Games.
Gretchen Ho, We Are One News. And before we go, it seems actress Liza Soberano hasn't run out of tea to spill. The new Maya ambassador was featured in the latest YouTube vlog by fellow actress Bea Alonzo. Liza strapped in for a lie detector test as she answered a couple of questions, including rumors that she had an abortion and issues surrounding her decision to pursue a solo career in the United States. The actress denied getting an abortion, saying that she gained weight during the time she underwent surgery abroad. Liza also spoke about getting boxed in a love team and revealed that she and off-screen partner Enrique Hill were first offered the lead role in the movie Hello, Love, Goodbye.
While we were doing Bagani, nabalitaan ko that
They offered it to Catherine and Alden.
at first they offered it to Catherine and Ken.
Oh!
And that scared me. I was like, why did they do that? I asked them to save the project for me and Ken. Parang, please wait first. And it wasn't till later that I realized, oh my God, ang dami kong hindi nagawa sa career ko.
And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World Online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more analysis. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. Ako po si Gretchen Ho. Stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.